Hi, I'm Patrick Johnson, and this is Behind the Screen, where I take you behind the DM screen in my campaign, The Five Kingdoms. Well, when last we left our heroes, Jeff and his group had discovered that there were orcs underneath the Donegal Castle, below the dungeons. And then when they came back up, and when Jeff finally gets to his bed and goes to sleep, everybody else blinks out of there, and Jeff begins to dream and joins everybody else in a dream about being hobbits in Land's End. Now, in the Hobbit group, Hanna is the main character. And Hanna is a monk who wishes that she was a magician. And with her is Tomwin Proudfoot. Now, Tomwin Proudfoot is kind of like almost like a second main character. Tomwin gets everything started because Tomwin is super inquisitive. He constantly goes off away from the Hobbit town and does these little adventures. He's been doing this since he was a little kid. And recently, he was wandered off far enough to find the Great Cavern where there's some elven inscriptions on the walls. It's taken him several weeks, but he's finally started to figure out how to read Elven, and he gets really excited about some of the things that he's found, and he comes back to convince his best friend Hanna to come with him to check this out. And so he gets together with Hanna, and then they get together with Berno Bilberry, who is a cleric being played by Jeff, Tavia Greenhill, who is a bard being played by Zenobia, Breaga Boffin, who is played by Athena, and she's a halfling rogue. Then there's Loudus Longfoot, who is, that's Larkin dreaming he's Loudus, and Loudus is a halfling rogue. And then there's Eldo Underhill, who is actually Bodaway dreaming that he's Eldo, who is a halfling warlock. So Hanna and Tomwin get all these hobbits together, and they decide to go on a little adventure of their own. And so they go walking across the grassland, and the grass is like nearly up to their heads, so it's very easy for them to hide from any human passers, any humans that go by. So they cruise along a little ways, and then before they get to the Great Cavern, they have a run-in with some giant eagles. Now, halflings are small enough, the giant eagles are thinking of them as just food. And so this little flock of giant eagles comes down and starts attacking the hobbits, and they fend them off. The eagles almost carry one of their party away, but they do succeed in dropping that eagle and getting rid of the rest of them. So that's good. They survived their first battle. Then they go on to the Great Cavern to read the Elven inscription. They get in there. There's a waterfall, and they come in, and there's a stream running through it. And they jump over part of it, and there's an Elven inscription on the wall behind them. Tomwin leads them over there and shows them this inscription. So Tomwin brings them across the river to read the inscription, and the first line reads, "The earth shook and raised the heavens. Kingdoms fell. The black crystal is broken. Where there were once thousands of universes, there are now only a few." Then the second line reads, "Peace has come to the land. Only a small percentage of races are left in the Five Kingdoms. As for the elves, look to the forests of the east." And then there's one last line, and it reads, "May those who are left rise up in our time of need." And that's it. And Tomwin reads this off to his fellow hobbits, and he's super excited. He's practically bouncing up and down as he's reading this to them. He's like super curious, and this is like a giant revelation to him. He wants to know more. And so he shows them this inscription, and he wants to follow the arrow to the east to go find the elves. And his friends decide to go with him. So they follow the arrow around, and they have a couple little encounters, one of which is a goblin cave. And goblins, being a weak race, they have set up a pretty strategic setup in their cave to keep any intruders from coming in unannounced, and to possibly be able to kill them off if they're being attacked. And so they run across this cavern where they're going through the dark, and then they have their own torches, but they're going through the dark, and all of a sudden up ahead they see a light. And as they come forward, there's two torches stuck in the wall at the beginning of this big cavern. But it only shows out 30 feet out into the cavern, and then they can't see nothing but darkness. And it's obvious that the cavern gets bigger and keeps going. So after some discussion, they finally head out there. They can see some rocks that they can hide behind. They run out to the boulders and they hide behind it, and arrows start coming at them. But because they're behind the rocks, and unbeknownst to them, because they're far enough away, the goblins already have disadvantage. So they're just taking pot shots at him and not really hitting anything. So Bodaway, dreaming that he's Eldo, the Hobbit, decides to spider climb on the wall and see if he can go out there and see what's going on. Maybe make it farther out into the cavern and find out what's there. So he's spider climbing along the wall, and the goblins start taking pot shots at him. And they're not hitting him because they have disadvantage. It's quite a distance away, and he's pretty small. But nonetheless, this kind of freaks Bodaway out. And as Eldo, or as Bodaway playing Eldo, casting a spell to become a spider, he crawls back towards the group, and they decide to turn around and go back the other way. So because of this, they go back through the Great Cavern, find a couple other things, and then go out the other side, which actually in my campaign leads to the Necromancer's Lair, which they're not meant to find yet, but that's how I got it connected, and they went that way randomly, and so that's what they're going to find. So they end up finding this room with some ungodly number, like 25, 30 zombies in it, and a wight. But because the zombies are so slow and the room is so big, they actually end up being able to take care of it relatively easy. So they kill off all the zombies, they kill the wight, and they end up staying here overnight and going to sleep. So those are the events that took place in the third session. But more importantly than the events, there was a discussion that happened right shortly after the eagles, after they got rid of the giant eagles that attacked. And that discussion ensued because Breaga blurted out that this was a really vivid dream. Is anybody else dreaming? Or something to that effect. And it got the discussion started, and pretty much all the characters came clean and admitted that they were dreaming, all except for, of course, Hanna. But Hanna, I believe, was quick to point out that she had dreamt the other with Jeff underneath the castle in Tor. And then Loudus, while listening to this, realized what's going on, and he heard them talking about being Yuli and Sable and Lazra, and so then he realized what was going on for himself, that they were dreaming of being his friends too. And so his mind is racing while this discussion is going on. And on the one hand, he's thinking about what this means for him with regard to having stolen the gate key, and he doesn't know exactly how often they've been dreaming of being his friends either. So he's freaking out about that. But he comes back to the current moment to think about the fact that they're going to look at him and ask him if he's dreaming any second now. It's going to happen, and he needs to have an answer. And so he's kind of freaking out about this a little bit too. And all at that same time, he's also trying to hide the fact that any of this is bothering him. He's just trying to act a lot like the other characters in the group. And so when they get to him, he has a story figured out what he wants to say. And he says, yeah, I'm dreaming too. I'm actually Maias from Tor. And so that makes the rest of the characters believe that he's one of them dreaming now that he's a Hobbit. Instead of the actual fact being that he's Prince Larkin, who has dreamed that he's Maias and is now dreaming that he's Loudus. So Prince Larkin is freaking out about all this, and he's making calculations in his head about what this means and how this is going to affect his plot, what he plans to do. And he's also trying to hide from the characters at the same time. So that discussion was very important, and I was waiting to see if it was going to happen and how it was going to happen. Were they going to try and do it in secret, one at a time between each other? And instead they did it as a whole group. And so that makes a huge difference on how this storyline proceeds as we go forward, because now Larkin knows a lot more than he would have if they had done this one at a time between each other, and maybe possibly not let Larkin know. So he's got that information now, and he'll be acting on that as this plotline goes forward. Now, after the session, as I'm thinking about this, what is Larkin going to do? What does this mean to him? I I come to the conclusion that the main thing Larkin is going to be concerned with at this moment, when he finds this out, his first concern is going to be, what does he do about Lazra, Yuli, and Sable? These are, childhood friends of his. But now he doesn't know if he can trust him or when he can trust him. He knows that these people that he's met in his dreams have actually dreamt that they're Lazra, Yuli, and Sable at least once, if not more than one time. And that one time was very important. They know some very important information that Prince Larkin is counting on no one in the Five Kingdoms knowing until it's too late. So he considers this seriously, and he's trying to decide, what do I do with my three friends? I could kill them. That would be the simplest and smartest answer. But it's really hard for him to do. I mean, he is evil, and he doesn't mind killing things for a purpose. But these are his friends, about half of his full group of friends. And he doesn't really have any other friends than this. He's the ruler now of Ban, and as a ruler, he is very unlikely to make any new true friends. So it's important to him. And it's also just important to him because, he may be evil, but, evil people have feelings too, and so these people are in some way precious to him. They're his friends. So he's got a lot to think about. And what he finally decides is that when he takes the key and they go through to the Gate of Worlds, he's going to find an opportunity to leave Sable, Lazra, and Yuli behind in that other world. It won't kill them. It'll just, get them out of the way. And he's still in a moral battle with himself about whether this is the right thing to do, because they're his friends, and it's really not a nice thing to do to your friends. It's a lot nicer than killing them, but still not the greatest thing, and he knows that in all likelihood he won't ever see them again too, so that weighs on his mind. But that is the best answer he can come up with for the dilemma that he finds himself in. So moving forward as DM, that's how I'm going to approach this until more information comes forward for Larkin, which may change his viewpoint. So again, another short video. Thank you again for joining me, and we'll see you next time. And until then, have a great day.